Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
What's crackin' Fantasy Champs?
What's up? What's up?
My name is Morgan Colby. I got Rick Lemon with me as always. This has got to be one of my favorite shows.
The trade targets?
Yes. It's because I love making trades. It's one of my favorite things to do. When I can get a team to agree to a trade, I feel this weird sense of euphoria. Regardless of how the trade is. And then there's like regrets. A little bit of regrets.
Always some regrets.
Last year, I traded Kyron Williams at the end of the season while he was hurt for Mike Williams. I felt good about it, and then felt really bad about it afterwards.
Yeah.
But I usually make 5 to 7 trades a year. So we like trades up in this hizzle. And you should, if you're in a league that's just sitting there dormant, call some people and make some trades. I remember our league used to be that dormant league. Like 7, 8, 9 years ago. I don't remember how long it was. And it was back when AJ Green was in his prime. And I made a trade preseason because we drafted way too early back then. It's like friggin' second week of August. And I made a preseason trade for AJ Green. And I drafted Zeke in the third round because he was on that suspension. And I drafted Todd Gurley in the second. And I think I drafted a receiver in the first. This is one of the best teams I've ever built. But I started making trades. And everyone was like, what the heck's going on? And then Rick followed suit the next year. He was like, you know what? Morgan's making all these trades. I got to make trades. And then it trickled down from there. So we just make a lot of trades in our home league. Lots of trades.
Speaking of which, bro, I'll take Jackson Smith and Jigba from you.
If you had anything I wanted.
Well, you don't want I'll give you Devontae, bro. I took him around earlier than JSN. 7th round pick.
Well, he's not going to have a good week against New England, so.
It's true.
I don't know if I can wait. We'll talk. I'll take a hurt Devin Achane.
Yeah, no. I'm good on that.
I'll turn my 8th round.
My precious.
My precious. But anyway, yeah, so trades are great. We love making trades, so we're going to give you 5 guys you have to trade for going into week 2 here, whether they're guys that didn't have great performances or guys that had really good performances that are about to shatter the entire league. You got to get these guys on your team. There's no two ways about it. If you're looking for receivers or running backs, we got some guys for you. So before we do that, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all those platforms. Just type the FF Champs, the Fantasy Champs in. You'll find us. If you're listening on any of our podcasting platforms, please leave a review, share this pod with your friends. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe. Click the bell for noties, like, and comment down below. It's funny. Everyone has that one fantasy season that they just remember.
Mm-hmm.
And the home league, I for whatever reason can't get rid of the commissioner curse and win a championship out here, but it's a barren landscape. But that one season I just referenced was the season that is in my memory forever because I literally went 10-0 before losing 2 out of the last 3 games.
I don't know how you didn't win it that year.
I don't know how I didn't win it either. Zeke got suspended for 3 games, finally had to serve it, and I lost him, and then I lost 2 out of 3 games, went to the playoffs at, 11-2?
Something like that,
Week 17 championship, that's how I lost.
Yeah.
Asterisk. If we had Week 16 championships, Rick, I would have beat the team I played by 100 points.
If it's in butts for candy nuts.
I think I scored 180 points that week.
That is crazy. Yeah, see, for me, it was the year I drafted Mahomes.
Yep, I know that. I knew the exact year. That's the year after this year for me.
Yeah.
Yep. You had
I remember on draft mate, everybody, including you, were like, why the heck did you do that?
You had the legendary stack that I tried to rip off you. You also had Barkley.
I had Barkley, I had Kelsey, and I had Mahomes.
I gotta say, we duked it out that year. His team was better though.
You did have a good team that year too.
Yeah, I tried. I tried to get you. I can't remember exactly what the trade was, but I tried to get Travis Kelsey and Saquon Barkley off of you.
Yeah, and it didn't work.
It did not work.
I think we did make a trade though.
We always make trades.
I think you gave me Kelsey and I had Gronk, right? Was it something like that? We swapped top tight ends with receiver.
We thought
you know who
about
else?
it.
It was Julio.
We
Or I had
thought about
AB,
it.
one of them, and we traded them.
See,
we swapped top tight ends and top receivers.
that was prime for us because we were big rivals, but no one else in the league traded at the time. So it was just me and you trading with other people. But we were doing so much to trade to improve our team that it just made our team like super squads. So excited to
that team was crazy.
Let's talk about some trades. It's 2024. I gotta stop living in the past.
Yeah,
I gotta win a
Dude, that was
championship.
6 years ago now.
Yeah, it's crazy. All right, these are guys you have to trade for going into week 2. Let's get into it. Number 1, Mr. Mark Andrews.
Yeah.
Okay, we like Mark Andrews in his house. Mark Andrews, very interestingly enough, was the second target in the tight end room for whatever reason this week. He had 2 targets, 74% snap percentage. He only came away with 3 fantasy points. This is a prime opportunity to reach out to the Mark Andrews owner in your league and see if he is willing to make a deal or if he's panicking about Mark Andrews. Because coming into the season, like tight ends usually last a little longer than wide receivers, significantly longer than running backs. They usually fade out probably at 33, 34 years old. So Andrews is not really, I would say for a tight end, he's probably like in the back end of his prime. So there wasn't really an age cliff concern with Andrews coming into the season. I did think that there's just not a lot of target share for the Ravens. And if they do want to get Likely involved, which it looks like they do now, that Andrews was probably going to have a little bit more of a down season than he's had in the past, which is why I only ranked him like 4 or 5. But I don't expect him to put up 3 points every week and be one of the worst tight ends in fantasy football. So he's definitely going to bounce back at some point. And if you watch the film from the Ravens game on Thursday night against the Chiefs looked like they clearly were trying to force them to throw the ball to Isaiah Likely and to Zay Flowers, and that they were trying to take Mark Andrews out of the game, because there were very many moments in the game where Andrews was bracketed by 2 defenders, and they were trying to stop them from even targeting Mark Andrews. So he was out there, he was running routes, the route participation was great. He just didn't really get any targets because he was double covered, and that left Isaiah Likely wide open, which I do think is going to change. I do think Likely will get opportunities, but Mark Andrews is going to get back to his target share, his normal 6 to 8 target share, and be a fine tight end for fantasy football, probably top 5 at that.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And at the time, I didn't agree because I watched the game and I saw how they used Likely and I saw Andrew's stats and I was like, this dude, I think I tweeted, I was like, he's dead.
He's cooked.
Like, it's over. The Mark Andrews love is over.
Film always changes it.
Yeah. But, then I kind of looked back and I saw some stuff of how they covered Mark Andrews. And it kind of made sense. And it wasn't, I looked at the snap percentage, it was still pretty high. So, he was still running routes. They're still using him. They just weren't throwing him the ball. And he was getting bracketed coverage, as you said. And they were kind of playing him like teams played Kelsey, or even how the Ravens played Kelsey. Like, both tight ends didn't have great games, but the focal point for both defenses was to stop the tight ends in the passing game. So, going forward, I think people are going to panic on Mark Andrews, and you might be able to take advantage of that.
For sure.
I do think that Likely hurts his chances of being like a top 3 or 4 fantasy tight end. And, those days might be over of him. Like, he was tight end 1 in 2021. He was tight end 4 in 2022, and I think he was he was 2nd or 3rd in points per game. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I still think he's top 5 or 6.
Can you justifiably handcuff a tight end?
No. Well, this offense,
because I've thought
this might be the only offense in the NFL.
I'm not saying this because I'm not saying this because I won the Isaiah Likely waiver claim, but if Andrews was to ever get hurt, where would you rank Likely among tight ends?
Probably like 5 or 6.
Yeah, it's the same range for me. So that's where I have Andrews at this point. So I just don't know. Like, it looks like they're going to do a lot of 12 personnel. So they're going to have two tight ends on the field all the time. And if they're both participating in routes, and like you said before the show, if he's in the slot, Isaiah Likely a lot. So he could just get his own target share separate from Mark Andrews in a different role. But you got to trade for Mark Andrews. Now, what would you theoretically give up for Mark Andrews?
I think people are going to panic on him, and you might be able to get him pretty cheap. Like, if I have a flex that I'm really comfortable with, like with my bench and stuff, I'd throw either one of my top bench players at him or my flex, and especially if I'm weak at tight end, and see if they'll take that. And I think not a lot, but I think there's a good amount of people that will take that trade after week 1.
Sure. All right, let's talk about the number 2 guy on our list, Jayden Reed from the Green Bay Packers. Now, we just gave a scathing sit
for this
conversation on the last show, which was linked somewhere at the beginning of the video. So if you rewind, you'll find it. But a scathing sit of the week at the wide receiver position for Jayden Reed, Christian Watson, and Dontavion Wicks. This is a perfect opportunity because I think there's a lot of other people who are having negative thoughts about Jayden Reed. Similar to what we're thinking, where it's not going to look good for 3 or 4 weeks here. And and Jayden Reed will likely be on this show for like 2 or 3 weeks in a row. Just because of that. Like, because he doesn't have his quarterback, he is going to take a hit, and he's not going to have as efficient games. And it's going to frustrate the owner of Jayden Reed, and they're going to have to wait. But with the way that the Packers looked in that first game, and the way the offense looked, and the way Jayden Reed looked, he's a guy that you have to get on your team. Like, I just have, like, even after a 33-point performance, where it's going to be hard for the person that has him to be like, to justify, I need to trade him. But if you can get out there, make the right argument, and trade for Jayden Reed, you're getting a player that's just, I think, is going to be a big wide receiver 1 in this league. Probably around 10 to 12 this season if Jordan Love is at quarterback. So I'm high on Jayden Reed, safe to say.
Yeah, me too. And I wish I was higher on him in the offseason. My biggest kind of concern with him was the target share and how many receivers the Packers have, which I think is still a concern, but I think it's clear that he's the best one. I know Player Profiler says his player comp is Stephon Diggs. Yeah. And he does kind of, have some similarities there. So he's the best receiver. I think people, you saw it on Friday night, and I think people who have him, if they're not already kind of getting nervous about him, are going to get nervous about him, because Malik Willis is not going to be throwing the ball all over the field, and we're probably going to see a hit in Jayden Reed's production here in the next week or two.
Yep.
And you should be able to capitalize on it and get him at a decent price. Even if it's the price that, like, he was picked at. If he starts having some bad games, you could get him for like a 6th-round type of player. I would do that in a heartbeat, because I think if we redrafted, Jayden Reed's probably going higher in drafts. With a healthy Jordan Love than where he went. And you might look at it, say 6 targets. That's nothing crazy, but he was a beast in those targets. He also had a touchdown at the beginning of the game that I thought was Dontavion Wicks, and I got excited. That got called back. That was actually Jayden Reed, so he could have easily had 2 touchdowns in this game for like 140 yards.
He already had 2 touchdowns.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he had a rushing touchdown.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So he could have had 3.
He could have had 3 touchdowns. Yeah, it was very disappointing when I saw Love go down, because I was like, oh, not Love. And then I was like, not Jayden Reed. So if you can, try to go and make that trade, because I think it's well worth the trade to get him on your team, especially looking at a schedule in the middle of the season once Love gets back. Whew. All right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Marvin Harrison Jr. Rick, give me your thoughts. Why are we trading for Marvin Harrison Jr.?
Another kind of taking advantage of people's panic. Marvin Harrison Jr. was his first career NFL game, and he didn't do anything. He had 1 4-yard catch. That was it. He only had 3 targets, but he did have a 90% snap percentage. He was out there on the field.
Yep.
He was still getting open. There was a couple plays where he was wide open. Everybody kind of was sharing the one at the end there where there was a blown coverage, but he was still wide open, and Kyler wasn't looking his way. So as the season goes on, they're gonna get him more involved. It was his first game as a rookie receiver. Like, this is not an uncommon thing. A lot of times rookies come out the gate slow. It's rare for a rookie receiver right away to just come out the gate and start putting up big numbers. I mean, Puka did it last year, but overall, it's pretty rare for receivers to do that. So
Yeah.
Marvin Harrison's going to get used the more and more he plays, and it could start as soon as this week. So get him on your team while you can. Take advantage of the panic and wait for him to kind of explode later in the season.
I will say, I think for what it's worth, I mean, they were already right away using Marvin Harrison Jr. as like the X outside main receiver and moving him all over the place. And I think what the Bills did against him was actually pretty good. They put their best guys on him and tried to take him away, and I think they did an effective job. There's no one else there, realistically. I mean, they have Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch, but like
Greg Dortch had 8 targets, baby.
Yeah, see, that's going to switch. That'll switch very quickly.
And Trey McBride, too, who also had 9 targets.
So, but I think Harrison probably got a majority of the attention, and when you're a rookie getting that kind of attention early, it definitely makes it more challenging, but he'll figure it out. He'll get better and he'll improve. And I think it's like for where he was drafted, I think that you shouldn't panic and just say like, oh, we got to dump Marvin Harrison Jr. If you have him, hold him, obviously. But I still think like coming out of week 1, there's going to be a lot of overreaction. There's going to be a lot of people going like, oh my God, Marvin Harrison Jr., what are we doing? And then the fantasy analysts' projections are going to have him move from, what do we have him at, 12 at wide receiver in draft rankings to, probably somewhere around 15 or 16. And it's like, just don't overreact. He's still good. To me, he's still considered a top 12 to 14 guy. And if he only had the 3 targets, like he's a guy that you can definitely get on your team and be like, okay, and feel comfortable about it.
Rest of season rankings, he's already dropped to wide receiver 18.
Yeah. So it's just, that's ridiculous. It's
and I'll take him at that price.
Yeah, I'll take him at that price. So if he continues to have this disappointing start to the season, when do you think it'll turn around? Because I think he's just too good for it not to.
I think it probably this week. He's playing the Rams. His next 3 matchups are Rams, Lions, Commanders.
If it doesn't happen against the Rams, it'll definitely happen against Detroit or Washington.
If we're at week 4 or 5, or if it doesn't happen by week 4, like if he has bad games against these next 3 teams, then the panic starts, because now he's facing a lot harder defenses, and it's been like a month and he still hasn't done anything.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's move on from Marvin Harrison Jr. and talk about Nico Collins.
Yep, my guy.
You just got hit with a Nico. Nico.
Yeah, he was one of my guys.
He's pretty good at football, no? Yeah,
I was telling Morgan before we even started recording that I was pretty impressed watching Nico. He is still the wide receiver 1. He had the most targets on the team. Diggs had the touchdowns, but Nico put up 17 points in that game without scoring a touchdown. He had 2 really high level catches. He's their X receiver. He reminds me of kind of like a Mike Evans in his prime, or maybe even Mike Evans today, the way he's been playing. But he's a jump ball receiver, but he can also get open, and he's their go-to guy on 3rd down. Like he's the guy there. And in such a high-level offense like Houston, which might be top 5 in the league, you want to get a guy like that on your team. And I think there were some people who were fairly concerned about Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell, and kind of like, how is that going to work? Even myself, I was a little nervous about it just because there's too many mouths to feed. And they did spread the ball out, but Nico, I think, showed on Sunday that he was the guy. He was not only the wide receiver 1 in targets, but he looked like the best receiver of the 3. So I think going forward, he's going to be really, really good. I mean, he scored 17 points this week without a touchdown. So if that's his floor in weeks where he doesn't score touchdowns, he's going to be legit top 10 guy every single week.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think if you were drafting Nico, you probably were kind of hoping that he ended up a top 10 guy every single week. But he has shades in his game of being, if he breaks out with a good quarterback in CJ Stroud, of being a top 5 receiver in the NFL. And I think that's
100%.
yeah, I think some people might feel like that's kind of a hot take, but I think that's what his ceiling is. I think he's just too good. He's too good in every aspect, in every area on the field. He can play inside, outside, off the line of scrimmage, on the line of scrimmage. Like, he can do everything. And it's just, they're going to utilize that. And it's interesting because they brought in Stefon Diggs and they have Tank Dell, and all of them can play everywhere. And so it's like, you're going to see Diggs. You're going to see Diggs line up outside, Tank line up in the slot, Nico line up on the other side. You're going to see Diggs move into the slot. You're going to see Tank move into the slot. Like, it's just going to be all over the place, and defenses are going to be like, how the hell do we even cover this?
Right.
It's just going to be confusing. I think Nico is going to be the most. I think he does a lot better outside, so he's going to be
he is their best outside
he's going to be
guy.
He's going to be the true X for this team, but like, having Diggs and having Tank open things up for Nico Collins, and it makes him really good. Now, it's going to be hard to trade for him. Let's just not even front on that.
Yeah, you're not going to get him at a cheap price.
You're not going to get him at a cheap price because he just got 17 points. There is no buy low. So you're going to have to pay for him, but if you can get Nico Collins, you got a potential player that can bust onto the scene and be a top 5 wide receiver.
Yeah. Well, because he was a 3rd-round pick in our league. He was a 3rd-round pick in a lot of leagues, even 4th round, like if you play on ESPN and stuff. So he was being drafted as like wide receiver 18, 19, somewhere in that range in a lot of those formats. My rest of season rankings, he's probably like wide receiver 9. So I'd be willing to pay a little bit more of a price to get that guy.
Sure. Yeah, makes sense. But Nico, great buy. Love Nico Collins. All right, let's talk about the final guy. I feel like he's always on the buy show, and it kind of
he's always on some sort of list.
Yeah, he's on some sort of list. But it's Jonathan Taylor of the Indianapolis Colts. He had 16 carries for 48 yards this week, 3 yards a carry against Houston. Not great, Bob. Not great stuff from him. But he did have 96% snap percentage and 10 fantasy points. Didn't really get any targets through the air, which I don't know if that's something that Anthony Richardson doesn't do or it just didn't happen in this game, so we'll find out. But he did score a touchdown. The big thing that I noticed about this situation is the fact that the Colts gave him pretty much every opportunity that you could get.
Yes.
Like, he is
96% snap percentage at running back is crazy.
He's going to get weeks where he doesn't perform well and he's inefficient, and he's going to have weeks where he's just freaking elite. And I think you're going to get, kind of that inconsistency with Jonathan Taylor that we've seen over the last couple years. But I think because of how much work he's going to get at the end of the day, like, he scored 10 points this week. He didn't really do anything besides rush for 48 yards and score that touchdown. If he starts to get target share, which I assume he will, that's obviously going to be a benefit for him. So it's like, if his floor is 10 points, you have a really good running back that can kind of blow off onto the scene. I think a lot of people are looking at that 10 points and going, oh, not this again with Jonathan Taylor. Like, I just drafted him with the top 2, with top 14 pick, and he's not giving me anything. So you can trade him on that buy low kind of situation, similar to what we were talking about with like Mark Andrews earlier in the show, where it's going to be cheaper to get him. Not that much, because running backs are valuable and people are not going to, I would hope people don't panic. If you're listening to the show, don't panic after week 1 and trade him away for nothing. But it's always worth asking the owner that has him, because week 1, you just don't know what happened. And there's a lot of random stuff, and it makes them go. It makes you think. It makes you go, is this guy really good? So
100%.
I think that's what it is with Jonathan Taylor. But I would go out and at least entertain trading for him.
Yeah, I agree. And he was probably my least favorite pick of the first round. Because he went in the first round in our league. He was a top 10 pick on ESPN, and I didn't see that kind of ceiling with him in terms of like weekly production in getting receiving work. And this week he kind of showed that he had 0 targets, 0 catches. But that's kind of a good argument to use against him if you're trying to trade for him, because as much as I thought he wasn't going to get a lot of receiving work, he's not going to get 0 targets, right? Like, that's going to change. And I don't think Richardson is going to dump it off to him a lot, because that's just not the way he plays. He chucks the ball and he runs, but he's going to get, more than 0 targets. He's going to get like 3 or 4 targets a week, and that will matter. Another thing is his efficiency. He had 16 carries, only 48 yards. That's not going to happen again. And if he's getting all the work at the running back position, and he can get that from 3 yards a carry to 5 yards a carry, it's going to look a lot better with a couple targets here and there. So as someone who wasn't even that high on Jonathan Taylor, I would be trying to trade for Jonathan Taylor right now because you can kind of show this production to somebody and be like, look, all the concerns in the offseason were true. He's not going to catch passes with Anthony Richardson. He wasn't even that good on the ground. He was kind of a bad first-round pick. And then you can get him on your team where he's going to kind of even out that efficiency and add a couple targets.
Sure. All right. There you go. 5 players you got to trade for. Mark Andrews, Jaden Reed, Marvin Harrison Jr., Nico Collins, Jonathan Taylor. Hopefully you enjoyed all of the shows that we came out with this week. Tuesday we'll be back with some waiver wire stuff. I promise. I promise you. But be sure to get these guys on your team. Enjoy your weekend, guys. Bye.
See you.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.